Welcome to Women Inspired. I'm your host, Linda Ugelow, and on this show I interview women and a few cool dudes, all of them entrepreneurs, healers, artists, and change makers, about what it takes to put your dreams into action. And today I have as my guest a woman who has gone through all kinds of odds to emerge triumphant in a life of purpose. She is a motivational speaker and the driver of the largest vehicle ever made. Thank you, Kathy Tuccaro, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Linda. It's a real honor. Thank you.
Yeah, and you are from Edmonton, so you've come a long way to Boston.
I did. I'm on my way to New York, so I figured Boston's not that far. I'll just come and do a pit stop.
Perfect. That's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So you have become a motivational speaker.
I have.
Tell us about what it is that your mission is, and we can get more into your backstory a little bit.
Well, the reason I started all this is because I never spoke about my own personal trauma and abuse until I was the age of 40. I'll be 48 here right away, so it's just fairly recent. And I realized the importance of breaking that silence, because by not sharing the secrets that I was holding, it held me prisoner, I guess, in a sense you could say. And it stopped me from moving forward. And so from the time I took to heal, I've met a lot of women who are in the same boat, and many women don't share, and not just women, I have to say men as well, but a lot of people don't necessarily share their stories of trauma because they want to leave the past in the past. However, what that does by holding it a secret, it's like excess baggage that you're lugging around with you everywhere you go. And by finally being able to release that, I have moved up and onward and into a world that I could never, ever have imagined 6 years ago to where I am today. And the reason I speak is because I want to share that so other people can be released of their pain and their suffering. Right?
So is it just a matter of sharing the story that allows you to heal, or what is the process of healing?
No, it's the sharing's a part of it, but it goes a lot deeper than that. For me, by showing that people can get out of their rut, can get out of that deep, dark hole of depression that they might find themselves in, and showing them what step that you can take, and next step to find that, I call it spiritual freedom, is important, because nobody showed me how to do it. I kind of had to figure it out the hard way, and a lot of trial and error and a lot of tears of frustration, I can tell you that much. So by my kind of doing what I'm doing, I'm kind of hoping to assist and to ease the stepping stones that, you know, if I can kind of guide people to, okay, well, this is what you need to do, and then this might help, and this might help. Because when you're overwhelmed and you have this cloud of darkness above you, it's really hard to break away through it and to kind of see what step you need to take, and it's easily overwhelming for anybody that's really hurting. So by doing what I do, I'm kind of hoping to assist in making it an easier process.
So what are some of the stories that you feel are important to share with other people so that they feel comfortable sharing their own?
Well, I'm going to say abuse is abuse. I've met a lot of people that have various stories of abuse, some worse than mine, some not. It doesn't matter to me. Abuse is abuse, bottom line. So whatever form that may take, it's how people cope with it or don't cope with it. So the stories I share aren't necessarily vivid, graphic stories of the actual incident. It's the frame of mind that I like to connect with, because that is something that everybody can deal with, right? Everybody can talk about, as opposed to the actual incident, because that can be very traumatic for people. I mean, it is for me. It'll always be there, but today I don't necessarily hang on to it, right, like I used to. So by the stories that I do share are more so the steps I took to get out of it, the steps I took to be able to learn to let it go, because up until I was 40, I didn't know how to let it go. I I had buried it so deep that I didn't even recognize that I needed to get rid of it. Like in my book, chapter 6 is called Bird with a Broken Wing, and that's at that state. I couldn't function anymore. And so that's where I want to kind of help people to get out of, right?
Okay, so you mentioned your book. So you've written a book.
Yes.
And when is it going to come out?
It's going to be out in August.
Wow.
Yes, I'm very excited.
And what's the name of it?
It's called Dream Big.
And how did you pick that name?
Because coming way back from all my trauma and abuse, I still had dreams. I still had things I wanted to do. And regardless of how hurt I was, I still had that image in my mind. And even when I left nursing and I had nowhere to go and I didn't know what I was doing, when I came across the chance that occurred that I could go to Women Building Futures, and now I drive the biggest truck, the truck represents, yes, it's a big truck, but it represents much more than that. It represents to me, I was homeless for a week, so from that deep dark place to all of a sudden this truck that's so gigantic, dream big. And I mean big. And you can achieve it. You can. You really can.
Wow. So you mentioned a couple of things from your backstory. I was like, oh, what about that? So you were a nurse.
I was. I was a nurse for 13 years.
For 13 years.
I was.
And this was part of the period of time where you were silent?
Yes, because for me, even though this is how bad it was, I was living in a women's shelter and still working as a nurse at the hospital, because I couldn't, well, number one, I needed a paycheck, but number two, I wasn't able to look at my own problems. It was so much easier for me to deal with someone who's a burn victim, or who's got multiple issues, cancer. I mean, there's so many awful things that go on in the hospital that when I thought about my own problems, I'm like, oh, it's not that bad, right? They're just bruises, they'll go away. But it really was a lot more than that. And so I pretended, and kind of you go to work, you put on that mask, and everything's fine. In reality, at home, it's a nightmare. So I can only do that for so long. And then I hit a point, I hit a wall when I was 40. I went to work one day, and I'm working the night shift. I'm looking at my sheet, and I couldn't read it. It was completely Chinese. I'm trying to read it, and I'm rubbing my eyes, and I couldn't read it. And I knew right then and there that I was done, that there was no more pretending, no more putting it away in a locked box. And so I had to go deal with it, and I did. I took 2 years off of life, and I went into a women's recovery program to figure out. I had to relearn about boundaries, about codependency, about anger management. I always thought I wasn't angry until they taught me, and I'm like, oh, yes, I was one pissed off lady. But it took all these classes, these long time in therapy to kind of deal with it, to recognize how hurt I was. Because a lot of people, myself, especially myself, you put on masks, you put on masks, you put on masks. No, I'm good, I'm tough, I'm a survivor, I'm strong, and I can deal with this. At some point, it's going to overflow, and that's exactly what it did for me. And it got to a point where I couldn't go back to nursing. I knew I couldn't, because even though I'm healthy now, if I were to go back nursing today, I think it would slowly tend to creep up on me. I would still tend to care about everybody else. So I know for a fact I needed a job where I could just drive, like I do. So today I drive and I take care of me, and yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell us about your driving. What do you drive? How did you end up on this biggest vehicle ever produced?
It is the coolest job in the world, I have to admit. As much as I love nursing, I was really good at it, but this, yes, it's the biggest truck in the world, but it's not just that. It's that sense of accomplishment, that sense of empowerment, that when I'm driving and I'm looking down at everybody that are so small, I'm like, yeah! I got this. I triumphed over all the trauma and all the abuse and all the words of, you'll never amount to nothing, you're no good for nothing, you're stupid, you're fat, you're ugly, whatever it is, right? It's like a negative thing in your ear. I triumph that. And that, to me, is priceless. Those negative thoughts that sometimes they'll creep up, well, what I do is I roll down my window and I give them the boot, right? I don't let them in my truck. I don't let them anywhere near me, because that is my healing power. That is my strength, you know, when I drive. And to this day, I've been there 4 years, and I still get to work and I still look up at this truck and I'm thinking, wow, wow, thank you, God. And
so this is describe the truck.
It's a 797 F Series Caterpillar earth mover truck.
Earth mover truck.
Yeah, it's 400 tons. The tire.
400 tons.
400 tons. It is. The tires are twice my size. If you go to my website later, you can actually see the truck is on my page. Or go to Caterpillar. They have
How
one
do you
too.
get up there to the driver's seat?
I helicopter up. No, I'm kidding. No, it's stairs. A couple sets of stairs. But it is massive, massive, massive. The shovels are the size of ships, like little ships. They're huge. Everything is big. Everything. So it's like when I first got there, after being homeless for a week, and 3 years later, I finally made it to where I was in the mine, and I'm looking up at this truck, and I'm thinking back of the time when I was homeless. I'm like, wow, how did I end up here? I mean, just the whole magnitude of it, not just the size of the truck, thus the title of the book, Dream Big, but it's so much more than that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've got this book coming out and you're starting to let people know about it. What kind of opportunities have opened up for you? Aside from being here.
I was going to say here, of course. Well, through the book, I networked with a lady who wrote a book on her story of sexual abuse, and her book is called Helpless Cries by Michelle Sabrina Alexander, and she's from Grenada. And so when we were talking about just our stories of abuse, she was telling me that April was Abuse Awareness Month, and I'm like, oh, really? Would you look at that? And I said, I haven't been on a holiday in a few years, so I'm thinking I'm going to go down to Grenada and check it out. And while I'm there, instead of just lounging on a beach, which is nice, I want to tour. I want to see the women's shelters. I want to see schools. I want to go talk. And so it worked out. She kind of organized everything, not just for myself, but a lady from New York, her name is Charmin Prince. She came with me. And so, well, we met in Grenada, and we did just that. We went and spoke on self-esteem at the women's shelter. I spoke to 2 schools. One, we had 130 children from the St. Andrew's Anglican Church, like 130 students in the church talking about sexual abuse awareness and don't touch me there. And we had the song going. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And then I spoke to 38 juveniles in the youth detention center, which was priceless beyond words. I can't even begin to tell you the goodness that came out of that. And while I knew I was going there, what I did in Canada is I toured 3 schools up in Northwest Territories, and I went all over Edmonton to various groups, shelters, recovery places, other programs that they had. And I started Hands of Hope Project for Grenada. And what I did is I had the people outline their hands, decorate them, and write words of hope all over. So from all these different groups and projects, I got 140 sets of hands. And so all these little kids in the school, there was 120 something of them, I can't remember, and they each got a set of hands from Canada, and with stickers and some wrote biblical passages, some wrote, hope, strength, love, courage, don't give up, all sorts of things. And those pictures, which you'll show later, they were like gold. These kids are holding up these hands, and it was like the best thing they'd ever had. It was incredible. It really, really was. And so I'll be going back from October 1st to the 18th to continue on and to go volunteer my time and spend time with these beautiful, beautiful souls. So, yeah.
Wow. I mean, it must feel so satisfying and purposeful to be able to share your story and touch people's lives and have it, kind of like have this positive ripple effect.
Oh, yes. Ripple is the good word, because the thing what I noticed is you don't know who's listening. Mm-hmm. You don't know who's actually needs to hear your words. Mm-hmm. And I had a choice 3 years ago after I had I got my job, I got married, I'm happy, life is good. My choice was either I can sit at home for 10 days and watch TV and waste God's precious time, or I can do something that's gonna make a difference. So I chose, you know what, this is a second chance I have, I'm gonna do what I can, because if I was hurting that bad, I mean, how many millions of other people are hurting? So maybe my words can inspire someone that they can change, that instead of maybe wanting to commit suicide, maybe they can lift up the phone and call a distress line, you know? And so by even going to Grenada and doing what I did, that showed me 100 times over just how important it is. And I'm going to continue on absolutely as much as I can, everywhere I can go. So yeah, it was huge.
So in these 4 years since you hit bottom, there must have been ups and downs. What did you do to help yourself when you were in a low spot?
Okay, I'll share a story, because it is a critical, important moment in time where I had a major decision. When I lost my nursing career, due to alcohol, had very poor coping skills. My daughter wasn't talking to me. I got evicted. I had no money. I had nothing, absolutely nothing. I was hopeless. And I ended up homeless for a week. Doesn't sound like much, but let me tell you, a week on the streets when you're not used to it is brutal. So I'm in this heavy fog, like in my brain, the depression, just I couldn't decisions, and it just seemed overwhelming for me. So I'm kind of stumbling along, and I followed this man. His name was Toothless Joe.
Toothless Joe.
Toothless Joe. So he was happy. He was quite content with that life. And so I figured I'd follow him around. He kind of knew the survival things. Anyhow, on the 7th day, he slaps me on the back and says, "This is the life. Live it. Love it." And he hit me so hard on the back, it's as if the fog cleared. And I had a moment of clarity. And in that single moment, I saw something. And I look at him and I'm like, "What did you say?" And he said, he repeated it. I'm like, "This is not my life. I don't care what, it might be okay for you. This is not my life." I actually stomped my foot and I said, "No, this is not happening." And with that, in that second, I turned around, I went to the hospital, I got the help I needed, and that kind of got things rolling, because that moment with Toothless Joe, in my mind, was unacceptable. I'm not doing this. And so I had a choice. I could have easily said, yes, you know, this is it, that's it, I'm done, I'm depressed, I've lost everything, I have nowhere to go, I have no hope, I have no money. But I'm like, no, that fire inside of me would not let me accept that as my destiny. It's not happening. And so that was 6 years ago.
That was 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
So you knew that program existed earlier, because you knew to go there. What kept you from going there before?
It's a year-long program. You always think, you know, I'm a nurse, it's a big commitment, I don't need that kind of help. No, I did. I really did.
You needed to hit rock bottom. You needed to have nothing.
That was, a new level of rock bottom. I'd hit different levels of rock bottom, but that was a new one. And one counselor at one time had taught me, she gave me an empty water bottle, and she said, for every line on that water bottle, you list things that have happened to you, and then you'll see. So I did it, and it took about a week, and both sides of the page, on both sides, were things that have happened to me that I had never dealt with. So when I saw her again, she lifts up the sheet and she says, "Do you really think that 21 days is going to help you deal with all this stuff?" And I'm like, no, you're right, it takes time. The thing is, we want to think that we're tough. We want to think that we don't need it. But deep down, you do. Sometimes you really need to just surrender and say, I need help. I can't do this on my own. I like to think I'm tough and I'm strong. I may drive the biggest truck in the world, but I'm still vulnerable inside. I'm still human, right?
So how do you help yourself in those vulnerable moments?
Today's a different story.
What do you do today?
Yeah, back in the day was a completely different story. Today, I make sure that I take time for myself. I have to. It is a critical part of my healing process, and if I'm going to be doing what I'm doing, I have to take care of me.
So what does that consist of? That
consists of, I meditate. I contemplate, I guess you could say, which is my faith is crucial to me. It's very, very important. I took up running. I love to run. I do. Never said I was good at it, but I love it. I'm an avid mountain biker. I really enjoy that just releases all the stress. I don't go on the typical paths, I kind of go up and down. Yeah, so. And now I've started traveling, and just by doing what I did in that church is huge. Is healing, by talking to those kids, by talking to women, by giving them something to hope for, by planting seeds that change can happen is huge. It's very healing for me to see the difference from before I walk in to when I leave. That light in their eyes, all of a sudden, it's there. It's priceless. It really is. Yeah.
So, if someone was listening to this who had some trauma in their past, what would be your message to them?
For anybody that is hurting, and I know there's a lot out there, the best thing that you could possibly do is take that very scary first step and help yourself. Pick up that phone, call the distress line, call the helpline, call the suicide prevention line, call whatever line that there is, and help yourself. Because if you don't help yourself, who will? You're valuable, you're priceless, you're important. And even if you think you might not, you are. And whatever problems are happening in your life right now, whether it be financial, emotional, physical, if there's health problems, if whatever it is surmountable. And I really believe that once you start taking those baby steps and helping yourself, things will change. The universe will conspire and meet you halfway to show you where you need to go, give you the nudges, the inner nudges, to follow your intuition, to go to the right places, to find the help that you can get. Because there's lots of resources out there. There's a lot. It doesn't matter what city you're in. You just have to pick up the phone and find it. Right? And you have to believe it somehow, some way, somewhere, that your destiny is not meant to be down there. That it is so far above and beyond that you can't even fathom. Because let me tell you, 6 years ago when I was homeless with Toothless Joe, did I know about this truck? No, I didn't even know they existed. It was like a whole different planet. But look at me today. Did I ever think I would see a beach when I was homeless? No. Did I ever think of Grenada? I didn't even know Grenada until. So do you see? You don't know what miracles are around the corner. But as long as I stayed on that couch, not moving and crying and on my tears and just so miserable, how can I change if I'm still there? You have to find it within yourself, that strength, that courage, that somewhere, that there's a better tomorrow, that something is going to be better. But you have to take that first step. You have to. And no matter what you're letting go of, whether, like I said, a big career, if you lost your career, some people get fired, whatever it is, there's something different, something better. That's not the end all of all. Like losing my nursing career due to alcohol was huge. Because at the time I was 42 when I finally lost it, and what am I going to do? How do you change careers? How do you start over with nothing? I felt so raw, vulnerable, open, and I really thought that was it. I was done, until I'm like, yeah, no, no. There's got to be something else. I don't know where it is, but I'm going to find it, and I did.
Wow.
I did. So, if I can do it, anybody can.
It's really inspiring.
Because all I knew for a fact, this is the one thing that I knew, was that being with Toothless Joe was not my destiny. That was it. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I didn't know what steps I was going to take. I had no idea. But that I did know. No.
So it's just as important to know what you don't want as what you do want.
That's right. Because I didn't know where I was going.
So you just take whichever you're clear on. Yeah. Whether it's the no or it's the yes.
That's right.
And you run with it.
You do.
That's great. Well, I have a box of cards, my magic wild card. Ooh. And I'd love for you to pick one and
dum dum dum.
Dum 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 dum. And just speak a little bit about what it means for you.
Surprise! I love surprises. I am full of surprises. I really am. I don't know if it's because I'm a Gemini, I'm spontaneous, I'm alive, I throw surprises. I love it. I absolutely love it. I do things like at work on my coworkers. I play tricks on them. I'll be driving along because it gets monotonous sometimes. You're driving 13 hours a day, and so just to kind of break that, what I'll do is I'll throw on a wig, like a really big wig or a cone head, and so I'll drive and I'll stop beside the grader and I'll look down and I'm like, hey, you look up, they'll go like, I'm like, haha, gotcha. No, I think surprises are phenomenal. My husband gives me a lot of surprises, a lot of flowers, a lot of, balloons and presents, and just randomly. And so I know the difference it can make. And so wherever I go, and when I do my speaking engagements to wherever, I always bring surprises for the guests. I always do, because it's nice, right? And especially when you're hurting, that one little thing, just kind of like, wow. It makes all the difference in the world. It really does. So
I'm also thinking that your whole story carries the element of surprise. Right?
I guess. I hadn't thought about it like that.
But you just have been describing how you would never have imagined.
That's right.
That you would be doing what you're doing now.
That's right.
6 years ago. That's a big surprise.
It is. It is. Because if you really think about it, because when I was homeless, I was with a whole bunch of other lost souls that just accepted it, and that's what they're doing, and they go from place to place to place. And when I said, yeah, this isn't happening, although I didn't know where I was going, it is a surprise. If I were to bring this and show Toothless Joe, if I were ever to see him again, surprise! Look where I am today. And I bet you all those that have really told me that I'd never amount to nothing, that I was worthless and no good and all these horrible things, surprise! Look at me now. Yeah, no. You don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. You really don't. God gave me a second chance, and I am using it to the max. I refuse to sit on my couch and just do nothing. It's almost as if I hear the clock ticking, tick-tock, tick-tock. And my years of nursing have taught me that you don't know when your time is up. You don't know when you're going to get hit with a really heavy disease, or you don't know. And especially in this day and age, the amount of cancer that's going around. So I am doing what I can now, today, to make a difference, to ignite hope in all those that come across my path. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your passion. I mean, it's... Yeah, I'm sure there are many people who can relate. There are many people who want to learn and will be inspired.
The thing is that I have 10 days off at a time. So I have time to go somewhere. I have a month paid vacation at a time every year. I have time to travel where I need to travel. So this coming year, I fully intend, I'm going back to Grenada from October 1st to the 18th, but after that, every 10 days, I'm hoping to go to Barbados, to tour the islands, the Caribbean islands, and see those shelters. Not to be a tourist in a resort, go see the people that need it. Go see the people that are hurting, and make that difference, because they too can change. What we might think is a tropical paradise, it's a prison to them. It's an island, right? And so that I learned that. So I can go anywhere and travel as much as I can and speak and spread hope.
Well, thank you so much for doing your work and spreading your hope and coming on to Women Inspired today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So thank you for joining in on our conversation. If you'd like to hear more, come on to the next episode.
Oh, 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 oh.